Alright, so now we're looking at adding and subtracting algebraic fractions. Now there's two things to keep in mind when adding and subtracting algebraic fractions. The first is that it's really similar to adding and subtracting normal fractions. The first thing you need to do is just make sure that you have a common denominator for these two fractions. So your first step is always going to be finding the lowest common denominator for our two fractions. And then we're going to combine the numerators. Now, the second thing to keep in mind is to make sure that when you've got a negative outside of a bracket, that you expand that the whole way through. Now, back to our first step, we're going to find the lowest common denominator for these two fractions. Alright, so we can see that our denominator on the first fraction is 3 and that our denominator on the second fraction is 4. So if we're to find a lowest common denominator, what we can do is think of the lowest common multiple between the two, and that's going to be 12 because 3 times 4 is 12. So then what we can do is make sure we keep our fractions equivalent to what they were before with 12 in the denominator. So for the first fraction, if I want to turn the denominator into 12, I'm going to need to do the same to the top that I'm doing to the bottom. So on the bottom there I've multiplied by 4. I've gone 3 times 4 to get 12, and on the top I've also multiplied that by 4. For the second fraction, I've had to multiply the bottom by 3 to get 12 there, so I've also multiplied the top by 3. So now we've got two fractions with the same denominator, so we're good to combine them. So on this next line, I've just combined both the numerators of the two fractions. Now our next step is expanding the brackets. Nothing fancy here, I've just multiplied the 4 through the first bracket there. Then in the second pair of brackets, just take note how I've multiplied the negative 3 through. So the first term I've got there has been negative 3 times x, and I've got negative 3x. And then the second term expanded is negative 3 times negative 1. So we've got, oh, that should be positive 3. Whoops. So I've just made an error there. That plus 1 on the end should be a plus 3. Now our final step is to collect our like terms. So I've got our 8x and our minus 3x with a little line at the top. So we've got 5x there. And then for our constant, we've got negative 4 and a positive 3. So I've got a negative 1 there. And we can't simplify that any further, so that's our answer.